Welcome to part 2 of Women's Prize for Fiction 2026. Last time I had covered 6 of the 16 books that were longlisted, and this time around I will be reading the other 6. And out of these 6, other 6, I wasn't able to get access to 2 of them. One is Gloria Don't Speak by Lucy Apps, and the other one is The Benefactors by Wendy Erskine. And let's jump right in. In my previous video, I had ended by saying that I had started reading Sweet Pea by Kid de Waal, or which is also called The Best of Everything. And I have finished reading that book, and I had a great time reading it. It was a delightful book. So Sweet Pea is about Paulette. When we meet Paulette, we find that she has Denton in her life. Denton is her lover. And one day, Denton's best friend shows up at her doorstep to tell her that Denton won't be coming back. Our Paulette is completely distraught. She is heartbroken. And she is unable to come back to her regular life. Garfield is trying to give a domestic bliss to Paulette. They kind of get into that arrangement. And while Garfield is falling for Paulette is unable to reciprocate his feelings. Well, this domestic bliss results into both of them having a child, a son, and he's called Bird. And after his birth, Paulette tells Garfield that this cannot continue. And, well, this time he's heartbroken and he moves out. They, however, remain doting parents to Bird. Garfield always shows up for him. He comes and visits him on weekends. He organizes picnics with his family and Bird. However, in none of those events, Paulette is never invited, which kind of something she signed up for, and we see in the book how she deals with that, because she's always she has that desire to have a conventional family, and she misses that. While this is happening, we also see how Paulette develops relationship with her neighbors, and through those relationships we see another facet to her. We see that she's a very kind-hearted woman. She has a lot of love to give. There are times, some decisions she makes, you really want to go and shake her up and say, Paulette, stop doing it. You really want to knock some sense in her. But I think her flawed nature is what makes her endearing, because at the end of the day, she is a very kind-hearted woman. And we all make mistakes. We all are flawed. And that's who Paulette is. I really had a great time reading this book. Kid de Waal's writing is so lucid. I just flew through the book. I had a great time. And I'm glad that I read the book. My next book is A Bee Slinks Towards Beijing by Alice Evelyn Yang. This is a debut novel. And what a novel it was. I loved reading this book. This is a family saga, a Chinese family saga with magical realism in it. We meet Kwanzi, and excuse me if I'm butchering the pronunciation of the name. I tried looking it up, but I think I wasn't able to pick it up. But yes, we meet Kwanzi. She gets a phone call one day that her father, who had left her mother and her 11 years ago, has showed up at their old home in Virginia. And the current occupants of that house are asking her to take her father, whose name is Wei Hong, take him away with her. And so she shows up. She is completely astounded, because this is a man who just left them one day and without any explanations, and now suddenly he shows up. So no questions asked, she kind of takes him back to her apartment, a cramped New York City apartment. And there we see that Wei Hong is struggling with his own demons. Literally and figuratively, he is completely disoriented, and all he keeps on saying is, I'm here to tell you the prophecy. I'm here to warn you about the prophecy. So from here on, we kind of go back in time. We go and see Wei Hong as a young child, I think when he's 9 or 10 and his teenage years. And that takes us to China during the Cultural Revolution. And then we also go further back and we see Wei Hong's mother's young age and her teenage years, and her we kind of see her life, which was during the Second Sino-Japanese War, during Japanese occupation of Manchuria. So we are seeing two of the very massive, big historical events in China, and we are seeing how this impacted this family, how it affected this family. And the author doesn't hold back when she writes about the egregious amount of trauma and pain and torture that humans can inflict on other human beings. It's atrocious. And there is, of course, a lot of sightings of characters from various folklores with demonic connotations. To me, as a reader, I perceive them as signifying the various traumas, and all these visions and sightings and dreams are generational trauma that is burdening all these characters, from Kwanzi to her father to her mother. And it was very hard to read those because she doesn't hold back. She doesn't lay it very thickly. She is not hammering home the point that look how atrocious were these atrocities. But she makes her point very clearly as you're reading it. So prose-wise as well, I really loved reading it. And this whole concept of burdening oneself with this amount of trauma was, it conveyed the emotions of how it is important perhaps to talk to your children. It's also covers beautifully the relationship between the parents and the children. I think the author in one of her interviews I was watching, she was saying that actually her parents are like that. They haven't told her much about their history and where they come from. I really had a great time reading this book. When I say great, I mean it was the visceral depiction of everything was eye-opening. I did not know much about Chinese history. My only qualm is perhaps I would have liked to spend some more time with the resolution. I am happy with the conclusion of the book, but because we had so much trauma, we covered so much trauma for so many years, from 1930s to 1970s, even now in the early 2000s, in the early 2020s, I think 2021, 2022, when the book is set. I felt the resolution just kind of came a little abruptly. I would have wanted to even if it came abruptly, I would have wanted to spend some more time with it. But that's just me. But yes, I loved it. It was a fantastic and a very unique book amongst all the long-listed books that I read. The next book I read was Kingfisher by Rosie Kelly. Now, this is a very small book, but it definitely packs a punch. And it is, to me, I felt this book is about death, about grieving. And primarily, what my takeaway from the book was, it is about selfless love. And unrequited love, but because love comes in various shapes and forms. You have love between friends, you have love between parents, you have love between partners, and this is what this book covers. So when we meet our protagonist, we don't know his name. We know that he's in a relationship with a man called Michael, and they have agreed to get into a polyamorous relationship. And while Michael is exploring this new facet of the relationship. Our protagonist, he who is working in the university on a temporary basis, meets a professor. She is a professor of poetry, and he's completely enamored by her. And to the point that even though he is a gay man, he starts having very strong feelings towards her. And they strike a friendship and beyond. What I liked, my standout character in the book was his friend. And I loved how selfless she was, how she was able to always show up for him, no questions asked. And that was the beauty of the book. And then Michael, even though Michael and our protagonist, they had their differences, but our protagonist's mother is not a very nice person. She's actually a homophobe, and she makes these homophobic slurs towards him and his partner, Michael. But no matter what, when she was ailing, Michael showed up. He had no reason to, but he did show up. So to me, again, that's a selfless act of love. And I don't remember the dialogue verbatim, but the essence of which was our protagonist is having a conversation with his friend, and she tells him that, that this professor, who is actually called Kingfisher, she doesn't love you like that. And he tells her that, I know, but I do. I love her. And the story kind of transpires how the relationship, how things happen. There's a lot of sickness and death, and like I said in the beginning, and how they kind of all have each other's backs, and that to me was very beautiful. So it was a heavy book, yes, and again, I think my problem was the end, the conclusion. It just abruptly happens. I think maybe the author wanted that. They wanted to kind of wanted to leave it open for us as readers to interpret them. Maybe I was looking for a little bit more of something more substantial to hold on to as the book ends, especially when you have books with heavier themes of death and grieving and sickness. I was looking for something perhaps, but that was something that I was expecting a little bit from this book. My next book was The Others by Sheena Kalayil. I was really excited to read this book because the blurb was so interesting. We meet Armando and Lolita. Armando is from Mozambique, and he's working in East Germany. And Lolita is a medical student from India. The story is set in 1989, and it's just before the fall of the Berlin Wall. And to see something so historic from the eyes of minorities, is, I think, very interesting. And that is what kind of drew me into the book. I did love Armando's character. I felt he had so much nuance, so many layers to himself. And I was really excited to read his character. Lolita, I think she came across a little too sanctimonious to me. Anyway, I read almost the first 100 pages, almost a third into the book. And that's around the time the third character, Theo, was introduced, who is a revolutionary, a thinker, a writer, and he comes from a family of writers and thinkers, and he takes an interest in Lolita. So anyway, by the time I reached page 100, I don't know, I was not, except for Armando's story, I was not very much interested in the other two characters. I was finding it a little bit laborious to read through. I didn't develop any kind of connection with them, and I was not feeling very keen on reading their stories. And unfortunately, I had to DNF it. I liked Sheena Kalayil's writing, and I will be picking up anything else she writes in the future, and I will look into what else she has written. But this book just didn't do it for me. So I did not continue reading it. The next book I read is The Mercy Step by Marcia Hutchinson. And we meet Mercy. And we meet Mercy when she makes her grand entrance into this world, right when she comes out of her mother's womb. And the whole book is from a baby, infant Mercy till she's 11 years of age. And the beauty of the book is that you're seeing very adult events, very adult things from the eyes of a child, a young child. And for me as an adult, when I was reading it, there's some things that, well, all of the things, for example, domestic violence and child abuse, sexual abuse. When I was reading all that, and the voice of the narrator is of a young Mercy when she is 5 or 6 and 7 and 10, because they are perceiving it, which it has a childlikeness as they're seeing these episodes in their lives. And when you see that through their lens, it really hits your heart, because no child should be witnessing this, no child should be experiencing this. And it was very sad when I was reading it. However, I really liked the whole take of a young kid seeing all of this and having a very childlike expectation from it, that mommy and daddy are fighting, why doesn't mommy leave daddy? And she kind of absorbs the fact that, okay, we are 4 sisters, and then there is another, and when the son comes, and we are not treated well by our dad or whatever, and then when the son comes, he's like lauded like the prince. So she comes to those conclusions, and children understand, children pick up on that. And they don't have any filters, so you are getting a very unedited version of this. I loved it. It was it was a fantastic read for me. I really, really liked reading it. And Marcia Hutchinson does a fabulous job of not making it, she was able to really capture the voice of a young child, and I loved that. There are some sections I felt it was a little bit overwritten. Apart from that, that's just me nitpicking, but there was some areas that I think we could have come to those conclusions by ourselves, but apart from that, everything was just lovely. It was I loved reading it. And yes, as I said, it has topics of domestic violence, child abuse, sexual abuse, racism, misogyny, and Mercy's voice was thunderous, and I loved reading it. What I have gathered is that I think the author, Marcia Hutchinson, she kind of she took inspiration from her own growing up years, because like Mercy's parents are from Jamaica, and they moved to the UK in 1960s. They have 5 children, and Mercy is a middle child, and they also had 2 children prior to coming to UK, but they couldn't bring them with them, so bring their children with them to the UK. So that itself was like very difficult to read. So yes, this was Mercy Step. Lovely book, and I really liked it. The next book I read was A Guardian and a Thief by Megha Mazumdar. Oh my god, this was what a wild ride. This wasn't a thriller, but it surely read like one. This is set in Kolkata in a not so far future, and it's set at a time when climate change has ravaged the world. And Kolkata is in the eastern part of India. So, and what has happened is they have rising sea levels, and it is very hot. And we're seeing a family that comprises of Ma, Mishti, her daughter, 2-year-old daughter, and Dadu. Dadu is a grandfather, and he is Ma's father. And they are waiting for something called climate visas. They're going to obtain that because Ma's husband is living in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and they will be going there, and they will be able to lead a better life. This whole book transpires within a week's time. These are our characters. And Ma was working in an organization helping people who have lost their homes because of rising sea levels, and trying to provide for food because it is at the brink, because of course there is food shortage. They're at the brink of a famine. And the other character we meet is Boomba, who was residing in the shelter where Ma was working. And one day he sees that Ma is stealing something from the shelter. That's one part. And then the next part is that the day Ma receives their visas, the climate visas to go to the US, these papers, passports and everything else is stolen. And that's the book. And this book makes you question your values. This book makes you question to what extent, what will you do to help your loved ones, to help your family members? How desperation will push you off the edge, that the lines between your morals and values and providing for my families, they blur. And I know the ending is controversial, but I think had that not been the ending, we would not have been talking about this book the way we are, because it makes you question a lot of things. It makes you wonder. And I have been questioning my stance on this and my values, and truly, because at the end of the day, it boils down to survival of the fittest. It comes to kill or to be killed. And desperate times and desperate measures, this book encapsulates that very, very well. And Megha Mazumdar is a magician with her words, with her prose. It's fantastic. It deserves all the hype. And the things she writes about, like the food and the roads and the environment that she weaves, she really makes you feel hot when she's reading it, when you're reading it. And culturally I was able to relate to a lot of those things, and I really liked it. It was a fantastic book, and like I said, it deserves all the applaud and all the accolades it's winning. It deserves it. It was so good. The last book that I read was Paradiso 17 by Lillth Assadi. This book broke me. So a little bit of a backstory from what I have gathered reading a couple of her interviews is that this book was inspired by the author's father. Some of these events and episodes that we read are actually what she has learned from her father during when he was a refugee. And in this book, we meet a character called Layla, who is our protagonist's daughter. And Lillth Assadi started writing this book when her father was in palliative care. And she continued writing this after he passed. So she kind of took inspiration from her life a little bit and wrote this character Layla in the book as well. And I read this like an ode to her father, and what a beautiful way to pay homage. So this book is about Sufyan, and we meet Sufyan in the early, I think around 1948. He's a young child of 7 years of age, and he is in Sadaf, Palestine. And during the Nakba, his entire family, along with his neighbors and extended family, they get dislocated, and they are moved out of their home, their ancestral home that they've had in their family for hundreds of years, and they move to Damascus. Much like Mercy, you see these big events unfold and through the eyes of a young child who should not be witnessing this, who should not be experiencing this. But again, in the earlier years, you kind of see the innocence of it, how he withstands these life-changing events, life-altering events. What really remained with me is that, yes, he's missing his home. He's asking his mom that, when are we going to go home? When are we going to go back home? And as he is pining to go back to his place, to his home, to his playground, to the tree that he's grown up with, even in spite in those dire situations, everybody gathers together, and under the sky and night sky, they try to play music, they try to dance, they make the best of what they have been handed. And that is sort of the entire tone of the book. That is the tone of Sufyan's life. He tried to make the best he can in that situation. And he's a man who always wanted home. He wanted to belong somewhere. He wanted a family. He wanted companions, friendships. And his entire life was spent in that desire of pining. And he did make friends, but at what cost? Like some of the friendships, he lost them along the way. There were some friends, he remained friends, and he was friends with them till his last days. But he missed his family. He had a big family. They were a family of 9 siblings, but he wasn't able to spend much time with them. So this whole thing of laying down his roots and belonging and having the sense of family and community is something that he always aspired for. And that was the tone of the book, and that is what Sufyan always wanted. One of the quotes I wrote down was, his home has always been lost by the pronouncement of another. This was fate. And that is so true. And it really breaks down. I had a moment to, to just stop reading and to just think about this man who wanted so much more from life. And everything that he had or was handed to was beyond his control. And it really makes you reflect. It makes you reflect that that at one corner of the world, something so drastic is happening. And on the other side of the world, we're just going on with our mundane lives, not realizing that, people are becoming homeless and losing everything. It was very, very hard-hitting. And can I just say, I just loved Hannah Lillth Assadi's writing. It was so well done. She has, so when you start the book, you already know that Sufyan is dying, that his days are numbered. And in spite of knowing, this is foreshadowing, and that trend kind of continues in the book. In spite of knowing where this character is going to end up and what's going to happen, you're so intrigued by their journey that you just continue reading it, in spite of knowing how the story is going to end. I loved this book. It was fantastic. It was great, and it really made me extremely, extremely sad. But yeah, she is a very, very good author, and I will be reading anything else that she has written. It was fantastic. So with this, we come to an end to reading Women's Prize for Fiction 2026. Tomorrow, that's Wednesday, they will be, when I upload it, they'll be announcing the shortlist. This is my first time doing it, so I don't know if I should even attempt speculating what are the books that might be shortlisted. So from what I have gathered in the last couple of years, because I've been following these awards since, 3 books, which is The Audition by Katie Kitamura, A Guardian and a Thief by Megha Mazumdar, and Flashlight by Susan Choi. These 3 have been circulating the prize circuit for the past 6-8 months. And one of them, if not 2 of them, will for sure be nominated for shortlist, or will be shortlisted. And my guess is it will be Audition and A Guardian and a Thief. I think these 2 will be shortlisted. That's from what I'm guessing the judges would do. And the rest, I don't know. But I can say the books I would like to see shortlisted. One of them, I think, which I would love to see, is The Correspondent by Virginia Evans. I love this book, and I would really like to see it shortlisted. The other one is Dominion by Addie Kitchens. It was such a powerful book. I would, again, love to see it being shortlisted. Now, for the third book, I am struggling between The Mercy Step and A Beast Slinks Towards Beijing. These 2 are books that either one of them, I would love to see them, or both of them, shortlisted. I'd like to see that, and I think it would be fun to see them getting shortlisted. So with this, we come to an end. I had such a wonderful time reading all these books. And honestly, thanks to all these awards, that I get the exposure to know such wonderful authors and debut authors, and read their books and find such gems and these books that profoundly impact me. Because otherwise, I might not have picked up these books. And I'm so glad I did this. So here's hoping this becomes sort of a tradition on this channel that I get to read Women's Prize and other prizes as well. I had a great time, and please write down any of these books that you have read and you have liked or did not like, or any other books that you would like to see in the shortlist. I had a great time reading this with you all, and let's wait for the shortlist to be announced. So thank you so much for watching. Take good care of yourselves. Thank you.